Good afternoon, hi, and welcome. This is called the Attard Methodology and Caring for the Caregiver. Hello and welcome. I am Janet Grace Attard, founder of the Attard Methodology, Caring for the Caregiver. I have spent more than 50 years as a nurse and 20 years helping individuals and families plan for their financial future. Throughout my amazing journey, I've learned one important truth. Those who dedicate their lives to caring for others often forget to care for themselves. The Attard Methodology is an invitation to pause, to reflect, and intentionally to build resilience, protection, and legacy before life's challenges demand it of all of us. And so today I am honored to be here. I am honored to share all of this with you. And I bring you this out of my heart, my passion for sharing, my passion for mentoring people and growing wealth. And so here we go today. We begin, my dear friends, with a beautiful picture of my mother. And she took this canvas, which was quite a big canvas for her. And she started painting out my farm. And she painted her beautiful favorite tree. And she kept going. And I was amazed because she created out of the image of her mind, very similar to what I do have on my property. And with that, we move to what I know today as what I call gratitude. We begin with gratitude. Every meaningful journey begins with gratitude. Gratitude does not deny hardship. Rather, gratitude, my dear friends, allows us to recognize our blessings, our purpose, and our opportunities every day during times of certainty and uncertainty. As caregivers, we often carry burdens that others may never fully understand. Gratitude reminds us why our work matters and why our lives matter. And again, back to the farm and back to something that I just like to take with me every day. This is my one office setting. Another is a little tiny office in the middle of Manhattan. But I always retreat back to the farm. It's easy to write. It's easy to share dreams and goals. Many of the greatest conversations happen walking through the vineyards. And so I invite you there. And so we move on. So the question becomes, the beginning of the day and the end of the day, who's going to care for the caregiver when we're asked every single day by the charge nurse, by the doctor, by the neurologist, by the resident, to only care for others? Well, we know firsthand, those of us that are caregivers, we're remarkably resilient. We're team players, and we save lives. Yet many of us often experience stress, exhaustion, emotional fatigue, and financial concerns. We become accustomed to giving until we have little left to give to ourselves. Over time, small cracks can become fractures, and fractures break away, and injuries happen. The Attard methodology asks a simple but very powerful question. How do we continue caring for others without losing ourselves in the process? Another slide, and we start with this, my dear friends. My mother's flower shop back in New Jersey. the day I had to go in when she passed. And luckily, before she died, we made sure that she put together her legacy plan, how she was going to pass on her flower shop to somebody amazing, which she did, how she was going to pass on her estate and her farms in Maine and her belted Galloway cows. It's all important, every single bit of it. Unfortunately, sometimes I run into friends who suffer untimely passing of their spouse, and the documentation just didn't get done, or the wealth planning was not done. And you ask yourself why? Well, we never thought it was time. Illness. My story changed dramatically. Dramatically when I was diagnosed with transverse myelitis. Suddenly, I was no longer only the caregiver. I became the patient on IVIG, fearful from the caregivers, the neurologists, the intensivists, that I would have to go onto a ventilator. Because oftentimes transverse myelitis will take away the ability to breathe. Like MS, the neurological system becomes affected, whether it's because of too long 16-hour shifts day after day for 50 years, whether it's not eating right, whether it's no sleep. Illness reminds us that health, finances, relationships, and purpose can all change in an instant. It also taught me something extraordinary. Resilience, my dear friends, can be cultivated. Healing begins with intention. If you manifest your healing, if you manifest the intention to save and invest versus to give everything away, if you follow the Roosevelt methodology, other great families we can read about, and there's so many, our lives can turn out very, very different. Very, very close to home to me is a story about someone who told me, you need to change, and I never got it. I never got it until I see what they meant years later. So be mindful of the ability to save for yourself. The greatest example I have for you is a family, the Mark and Mary Stevens family, who just dedicated $177 million to build a medical school, Santa Clara County, Santa Clara, California. Amazing.
Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. Today we're unpacking something called the Attard Methodology. And look, this isn't just your standard run-of-the-mill financial literacy checklist. It's actually a deeply structured professional survival framework built specifically for physicians and healthcare trainees. Ultimately, we're talking about stewardship, true resilience, and quite literally, professional survival.
Think about it. You've been trained to save lives, right? To manage these incredibly intense crises and perform under unimaginable pressure. But we really have to pause for a second and ask, who is stepping in to protect your own well-being and your future? The reality is, the caregiver is usually so focused outward on everyone else that the actual individual behind the white coat is left entirely exposed.
And there's this really stark contrast between the incredibly high stakes of a clinical environment and the quiet, often totally unprotected reality of a physician's personal life. On one hand, you've got this exceptional clinical competence, literally years and years of rigorous, exhausting training. But on the other, a complete lack of structural financial protection. It highlights how so many young professionals are clinically brilliant, yet personally and financially unprotected from the real-world pressures that are inevitably going to hit them.
So, we'll be following the structured clinical chart today to diagnose the systemic gaps in medical training. We'll quickly cover the cost of caring, the gap in medical education, Phase 1, the foundation, protect before you progress, growth with meaningful purpose, and finally, building a resilient legacy.
All right, Section 1, the cost of caring.
Let's be real. Medicine isn't just a job, it's a calling, and it's powerful enough to completely consume the person practicing it. Behind that white coat, the young physician is carrying the incredibly heavy weight of the caregiver identity. We're talking crushing educational debt, chronic sleep deprivation, the emotional trauma of catastrophic patient outcomes, and of course, the constant looming threat of legal exposure. It's a totally unique environment where total exhaustion is basically normalized. And if left unchecked, that rare combination is a fast track to severe burnout. Janet Grace Attard, the founder of the Attard Methodology, really hits the nail on the head here. She brings decades of experience as a maternal infant nurse and a legal nurse expert. Drawing from her countless hours at the bedside and her own intense personal battle with transverse myelitis, she emphasizes an absolutely crucial lesson. Quote, "Before medicine consumes identity, the physician must learn to protect self, family, judgment, health, and future." Simply put, you have to protect the healer first. Moving on to Section 2, Gap in Medical Education.
So why exactly are such brilliant, highly capable people left so vulnerable? Well, the core issue isn't a lack of intelligence or drive, obviously. It's actually a massive structural gap in medical education. While your clinical training rigorously prepares you to diagnose disease and save lives, the missing infrastructure leaves you without any formal preparation in things like debt strategy, income protection, evaluating those tricky employment contracts, or tax-aware planning.
Which brings us to Section 3, Phase 1, the foundation. This is where we transition from just pointing out the problem to actively treating it. The methodology is built on a 5-step roadmap. And what's really fascinating here is the progression. It completely shifts the focus away from those aggressive, flashy, get-rich-quick narratives and instead zeroes in on rigorously protecting the caregiver. It's basically a stair-step model meticulously designed to stabilize you before you accelerate. Let's break down the first 2 steps. Before you sign that very first attending contract, before you even think about buying a luxury car or a massive house, you absolutely must build resilience. That means step 1, financial fitness, and step 2, emergency reserves. Honestly, think of your emergency fund like your oxygen mask on an airplane. You know the drill. You have to secure your own oxygen before attempting to invest or inflate your lifestyle. A physician who is operating in financial chaos is just far, far more vulnerable to poor decisions and total burnouts.
Okay, Section 4, protect before you progress.
Moving into this next phase requires a major, profound shift in your mindset. As the quote says, protection is not weakness. Protection is wisdom. Your greatest asset is not your medical diploma, it's not your fancy title, and it's not even your future earning potential. Your greatest asset is your enduring ability to think clearly, practice competently, and sleep peacefully without the constant looming threat of financial ruin. Protection creates stability, and stability is what actually creates long-term freedom.
Practically, this brings us to step 3, which means you have to establish these solid defensive risk management pillars before you start heavily relying on your income. We're talking disability insurance, life insurance, solid emergency reserves, and acute malpractice awareness. Why? Because literally one unexpected medical diagnosis, one random injury, or one lawsuit can flip your world upside down instantly. You just can't build outward success on an unstable foundation. You've got to protect the caregiver first, and then you build.
And that leads us straight into step 4, debt, discipline, and delayed gratification. Look, true freedom comes from strict financial discipline and actual ownership. You have to deliberately separate your genuine needs from the immense, frankly toxic pressure to simply look successful. You've got to actively avoid the lifestyle inflation that almost always comes with that first big attending paycheck. Reduce toxic debt aggressively so you don't end up being house rich and freedom poor. Remember, every single dollar you spend on appearances today directly chips away at your future independence. Section 5, Growth with Meaningful Purpose. Building on all that discipline, we reach a real philosophical pivot in step 5. Once that emergency fund is stocked, your protection is locked in, and your debt is going down, we have to pause and ask, what is all this actually for? Because true wealth is the ability to live with clarity, freedom, and intention. It is not simply what you earn. The endless pursuit of money alone can quietly become just another exhausting treadmill. True financial growth shouldn't consume your life. It should actively support it. Your compound growth has to serve a larger mission that aligns with your deepest values, like supporting your family, maintaining your health, and preserving your ability to serve others.
A really practical application of this discipline is securing at least $100,000 of value through a foundational protection policy before you ever step foot into market speculation. Through deliberate actions like properly utilizing a paid-up additions or PUA rider, which essentially lets you overfund a policy to rapidly build guaranteed cash value, you're ensuring total stability. You're establishing this unshakable financial baseline, regardless of whether the stock market is crashing or soaring. It's deliberate, it's super focused, and most importantly, it works.
Finally, Section 6, Building a Resilient Legacy.
This brings us to the end of our Phase 1 journey, because financial stability really isn't the end goal. It's literally just the foundation. Your ultimate legacy requires maintaining a fierce, non-negotiable dedication to wellness, mindfulness, quality sleep, proper nutrition, exercise, and gratitude. Stress does absolutely wild things to the human body, and as caregivers, you absorb a massive, disproportionate amount of it. You have to vow to be healthy and be determined to be joyful, because your long-term legacy is built entirely on the preservation of the healer.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one absolutely crucial question. As you stabilize the caregiver and build this unshakable foundation in Phase 1, what kind of impact do you truly want to leave behind? Because survival alone is no longer enough. The journey continues, the mission remains, and Phase 2 is coming soon. So, what is your legacy going to be?
Okay, let's jump right
So, and
into
with
this
that,
explainer.
my dear
Today we're
friends, what
unpacking
is your
something called
legacy?
the Attard
We take it
Methodology.
back
And look,
right now
this isn't just your
to
standard.
the questions that we talked about, the 4 pillars within the video. And the Attard methodology rests upon 4 pillars. It's the gratitude for knowing what we have. It's the resilience to make a difference every day, no matter whether we've gone through sickness, challenge, anything really. Protection, the ability to protect before grow, because all of us don't know when things are going to happen, and then always planning for a legacy, not waking up and not having the plan done at the moment that we need it the most. So for me, the ownership of land grounds me. My family grounds me. The resilience strengthens me. The ability to care for others, to care for you when you're not sure you can put this plan together. I will dedicate myself to assisting you in the process. Protection, protecting us against not having, being organized. There are so many tools to get organized. There's no excuse to not get one's act together and make growth of wealth happen. And then legacy, following our values, growing a medical school, planning for the future, dedicating a portion of assets to somebody spectacular, which is what I have chosen to do in addition to my family. So legacy will allow our values and our contributions to endure. This beautiful piece of farmland I bought now 20 years ago. It was close to 11 acres. There was nothing on it, no trees, no grass, no house, no pool. And systematically, I took it upon myself to walk the vineyards and grow, walk the vineyards and grow, walk the vineyards and plant trees, walk the vineyards and put a little cottage house on there, until I found it a place where I could write, I could read, and I could share with my friends farm dinners in the middle of nowhere, which was what I wanted to do. So, what is our mission for you? What is our mission for life? What is our mission? And that's truly what this is all about. We know that we protect before produce. We spend much of our lives producing, achieving, giving it all away. Yet before any kind of production outward, we must protect ourselves. We must protect our health, our income, our families, prepare thoughtfully for life's uncertainties. I had to turn from somebody who worked doubles every single day to somebody who changed into a wellness philosophy to eat better, to sleep better, and to not work doubles every single day. I had to ultimately set up a plan, save more, pay down debt, and create a legacy for my family, my will and estate documents, as well as all the other accounts, my insurance policies, and my growth policies. So important that we have to take a look at. And it's all about building resilience, really. It's all about, it's not one moment of courage. Resilience is built every single day through meaningful relationships, continued learning, intentional self-care, choosing purpose despite adversity. And it's a practice we all must do. Start the day with a bit of yoga, start the day with a meditation, start the day with phenomenal breathing, and we'll all do better in the end. And again, I will bring us all back home to resilience and legacy planning. So being a sustainable lifesaver, sustaining your own life as AI infiltrates into all of society, and we know that we are eating better and life is being lived much longer these days. Again, we have gratitude. So if we are able to live to 100, 110, do it. I'm going to do it. I can't wait. So let's just say our legacy plan extends far beyond our finances. It allows us to travel. It's how we serve. It's how we create hospitals, how we create change, how we mentor, how we encourage others, and how we help people become the very best they can be. Every decision we make contributes to the story we ultimately leave behind. What a
Okay, let's jump right
wonderful,
into this
wonderful
explainer.
story.
Today we're unpacking something called the Attard Methodology. And look, this isn't just your standard run-of-the-mill financial literacy checklist. It's actually a deeply structured professional survival framework built specifically for physicians and healthcare trainees. Ultimately, we're talking about stewardship, true resilience, and quite literally, professional survival.
Think about it. You've been trained to save lives, right? To manage these incredibly intense crises and perform under unimaginable pressure. But we really have to pause for a
And I
second
think
and
at the
ask,
end of the
who is
day,
stepping
we've
in
already
to
said
protect your
enough.
own
And
well-being
so
and
what
your
I'm going to
future?
say to all of you is I invite you to look in the mirror. I invite and ask you, what mission do you intend? How will you strengthen your own foundation? How will you continue to serve without cracking? The Attard Methodology and J. Oliver Maxwell reminds us that caring for others begins by caring for you. Through gratitude, resilience, protection, and intentional planning, you can continue your work with purpose, strength, and hope. I thank you for joining me on this journey. I thank you so much for being part of this. Contact J. Oliver Maxwell. Keep participating. Listen to my YouTube videos. Go on to LinkedIn. Go to empoweryourmoney.blog. I'm there, and I'm also on the farm. I'm here waiting for you with open arms, ready to assist you and grow your wealth. And I look forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you so very much, and have a lovely evening.